Okay, in this video we're going to attempt to do a little drag soldering on this IC package here. This is an SSOP package, and the lead pitch is 25 mils or 0.025 inches, and that's a little bit too fine of a pitch to try to solder each lead by hand like we did with the SO8 package in my previous video. So we're going to try a technique here called drag soldering, and with any of the surface mount stuff, great to apply a little flux to the pads here first. That'll really help the solder to wet and only ball up on the metal, and to minimize solder bridges. We might still get some. Let's move this package over here, set it in place, and position it around here. Again, a little tough to do behind the camera, but we'll just do this here that should be close enough. And just like I did with the SO8 package, we first want to try to set the part in place and lock it down by tacking a corner or two. And usually there's enough solder on the leads or on the board itself to create a little bit of a tack. So I'll come down here and hold it in place and just tack a lead in the corner there, and a lead in the corner here, and then back there in that corner, and let's see if I can do this last corner back here. So I should have enough of a tack on them that they're now in place, and the part won't want to move. Okay, so I think we're good. Okay, so the technique of drag soldering, I'm going to apply a little more flux here, is to create essentially a ball of solder that will kind of sit, between the iron and the lead and the board, and as you drag the soldering iron across, you're dragging that ball of solder with it. One of the neat properties of solder is it tends to follow the heat. So that's why they always tell you when you're soldering wires or soldering anything, you apply the soldering iron to one side and then the solder to the other, and then the melted solder will be drawn towards the heat. So we're going to do the same thing here. And it's a little bit, I'm doing it at an odd angle here because we're on camera, but let's see if we can get this to work. So I'm going to bring the iron down, run some solder in to create a ball. Okay, a ball of solder, and I'm going to run that across and just drag that across there. We'll inspect that a little bit later here, but it looks like I might have had a bridge at the tail end, but I think we did okay. Let's do a little bit of a drag on the front edge here. Get a little tough angle with the camera, and I'm looking through a magnifier here, so let's see if we can get a little ball going and drag it across. Now you'll notice I got a little bit of a ball right here, but these leads right here all soldered pretty nicely. So I could probably just, with enough flux on there, I might be able to pull that off. I got a little bit more in that one. The flux will kind of tend to help. There we go, I just cleared that ball now. So now if we take a look at that, it actually looks pretty clean. A little bit tough to see with all the flux in there, but I'll pause the camera here and do a little bit of cleaning, and then we'll come back with the camera and see how well we did. Okay, I've done a little bit of cleaning here, and my cleaning method was typically taking a cut down flux brush like this and dipping it in either isopropyl alcohol or acetone or a combination of both, and scrubbing away at the part. And I just did that off camera because I don't want to get any overspray on the camera lens. But let's take a look at how we did. I'll pull the vise out of here and see if we can get this to focus well enough here, maybe with the high resolution filming. Looks like we did okay. I had one little solder bridge on the far side, and the easy way to clear those solder bridges is to kind of come in with the soldering tip. I'm just going to grab an old tip here to use as a pointer, and come in with the tip, and with a lot of flux on there, kind of put over the bridge and just drag away, and that will typically cause the solder to ball up only on the leads and on the metallization on the board. But by dragging that solder ball across the leads, we made a really nice fillet. It's very, typically when these are properly soldered, you can't see much solder really at all. But you can just go through, and I went through and verified a couple of the leads with an ohm meter to be sure they're making contact. But that's the technique of drag soldering. It does take some practice. This This video was actually a second take. My first take didn't go real well because I was a little bit out of practice here. But that's how that typically works. With a little bit of practice, you can drag solder pretty well with little or no solder bridges at all. And like I said, sometimes you wind up with a bridge right at the tail end of where you finish soldering, and you just have to kind of take the soldering iron and just grab and kind of drag down a little bit to pull the solder away, and it'll all kind of ball up. And again, apply a little more flux if the flux that you've applied had kind of all boiled away. Don't be afraid to use a bunch of it because it really does help. And of course you could go in with solder wick as well to wick away any excess solder that you have. And again, using the flux will really help to cause the solder to wet and ball up just by surface tension on its own. So anyway, that's the technique of drag soldering. I'm going to take a look at this and see if it's good enough to publish for you guys to see. But I know a lot of you had asked about wanting to see that, so that's what that looks like. Thanks again for watching, and thanks for all the great comments, guys.